5, 4, 3. Welcome to the PositiveLeo Show, a small grassroots organic channel where we highlight positivity through stories, news, music, life, and on occasions we get to really invite cool and unique guests to come on the show and share their stories. And today is an awesome day where I get to sit down with my friend Danielle, based out of LA. She's a digital creator. She has a website called Blendandchat.com where she shares her thoughts on positivity, food, traveling, and most definitely her passion for coffee, which is on my list as well. Now, she's also invested as an actress as well, and so I'm sure we'll learn more about that through our convo. Without further ado, Danielle, welcome to the show. Let's have this convo.
Yay. Wow, what an intro.
There you go, try it. Well, let's open it up. How? First question, can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Danielle, as you just said. I live in Los Angeles. I started the account Blendandchat, which actually not many people know, but it's like a little play on words, bend and snap from Legally Blonde. But my friend and I, who was like my OG partner with Blendandchat, we thought of the name together, and yeah, she went off to do amazing things in the musical world, which then left me by my lonesome. And I was like, well, I still love coffee and I still want to make content. So how do I figure this out? So I did that, and then we can touch more on that later because this is still the intro.
Yeah.
I am also an actor. I've always been involved in some sort of like theater or commercial TV realm. What else? My hobbies, I take a martial art with my husband, Wing Chun.
If man. Sorry,
yeah.
I have to say it out loud.
Yeah. So I've been doing that for like almost 6 years. It's awesome. Dang. If anyone hasn't looked into martial arts, you definitely should. It will change your life. What else? 2 cats. I've been married for 6 years.
What's up?
Yeah, been together for 8. And I think that's, I don't know, I guess.
You ready for a random question? I'm just gonna throw it in there.
Yeah.
How did he propose? Can you recall? Just to share with the audience.
I can. So I remember I just gotten off of work and it was late, but he had already like packed like clothes and stuff for me because he said we were gonna stay in this little cutesy town called Solvang, which is kind of like a Dutch-ish style town, maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Los Angeles. So so we're driving there and then it's late at night and he's like, oh, I'm kind of hungry, you want some dinner? I was like, sure. I'm thinking we're just gonna go to some like fast food place. And so then we get off the freeway and then he's having trouble like finding the place that he wanted to go to. And I'm like half asleep anyways, because I had a long day at work. And so I was like, well, you sure you don't want me to like help you figure out where it is? And he's like, nope, I'm good. I said, okay. So then finally we pull up to this like strip mall type of place. And I was like, wow, like a sit down place to eat. Oh, sure, okay. I guess we can do that right now. And then, yeah, so I get out of the car and then he tells me to open the trunk. And then I open the trunk and then he has his backpack. And the backpack's filled with like dried beans. I was like, oh, okay. And so he's like, yeah, reach in there. And I was like, okay. So I reach in his backpack and then I just have a fistful of beans. And then he sees there's nothing else in my hand. So I was like, cool, beans. And he's like, wait, do it again. Like, okay, so I reach in this backpack again, more dried beans. Oh, also because beans was like a nickname that we would like call each other.
Oh.
I don't even know where it came from, but it happened. And then so for the third time, like I reach in there again, and then finally see like this little white box. Like, oh, a box. That's nice.
Oh, my heart's beating already. Go ahead.
So I was like, wow. I'm thinking like, he got me like earrings or something. That's nice.
So you had no clue. You had like no, like there was, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So then I opened the box. I was like, oh wow, like this looks like that ring that like I drew out that he was gonna like give to me whenever he decided to propose to me. Huh. Well, yeah, I guess that's it. So it looks nice. It just still wasn't like
registering. It wasn't like
yeah. And so he like takes the ring out of the box, and then he's like, I think he gets on like one knee, but then he switches to like the other knee. And he's like, I don't know which knee I'm supposed to be on. So he's like just on like both knees. And then he's like, you down? And I was
hey, like, you down? Okay.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what?
And did you say I'm down? Or
I did.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm down. And then I was like, oh, since this will hopefully be the only time. I was like, you gotta at least say the words. And so then he's like, will you marry me? I'm like, okay. And but it turns out that like the reason that we were in this like the whole like strip mall detail was he thought he found, I mean, it was a nice restaurant. He thought that this restaurant was like overlooking something like the beach or whatever on like some sort of view, which is just what makes it funny because it's the complete opposite. Because if you're like going in that direction, there's like Malibu,
right,
and like they're like beachy-ish areas, but this is the other way, more inland. And so it just ended up being like a restaurant in the strip mall, which is hilarious. And then we ate and then went to Solving, and then
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was cool. I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was great.
Awesome. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Nay. I appreciate that. Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Right back on schedule here. Question number 2. You know, we both share, you know, a passion for coffee, as you know, and I'm a big fan of how you cultivate that passion to share on your Instagram, the history of coffee, different types of coffee, different unique local cafes, your perspective on coffee. Could you kind of walk us on how this love, this passion for coffee came about?
Yeah. My first like coffee memory was when I was in, I think, elementary school, like maybe 6th grade, and I had those little like Starbucks Frappuccino glass things.
Yeah.
Like my parents like let me have one. I was like, so like I was dropped off at school super early. And I just remember like sitting there, and it was like early in the morning, and I was like drinking this coffee, and it was all like foggy. I was like, this is nice. And then I'd always liked coffee. Like I love my coffee moments with my dad, like every morning at the breakfast table and stuff. And then I feel like I didn't really start getting into coffee until after I had returned from college, because like I still liked coffee. Like I would get like 7-Eleven coffees, but I had no idea what specialty coffee was or third wave. The fact that there were even waves of coffee. I just knew about Starbucks, Coffee Bean, and oh look, there's some random coffee shop in this town. So, right. I guess, yeah, I don't even know when like the world bloomed when it came to like coffee, but Blendandchat actually came to be because my husband, since I'm an actor, like there's like ups and downs of like acting. Sometimes you're busy, sometimes you're not. So the knots, I was just like going kind of crazy. I was like, oh, like I need to do something. And so he's like, well, you watch a lot of YouTube and you love coffee. This is also how Blendandchat came to be, but it's tied into my love for coffee. So he's like, yeah, we love watching YouTube and you love coffee, so I wanted to start a coffee YouTube channel. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do that, put myself out there. That's really scary and weird. And then I slept on it and I was like, okay, fine. And that's how I brought in a friend of mine, because it was easier to have a friend do this with me. But we would just go to coffee shops and then just kind of maybe feature what their drinks, like their specialty drinks were, or like what the coffee shop looked like. And then we would talk about nothing. And so then, like I said, she had booked a touring job for the Bodyguard because she sings and does like acting as well.
Oh, wow.
Amazing, Jasmine Richardson. And so since she was gone, it's like, okay, well, I'm still looking at different coffee shops. So starting this channel already was beginning to expand my knowledge of coffee. And then I found out that there was a coffee festival. So I went to my first coffee festival in Los Angeles, downtown, and it was amazing. I was like by myself, like trying to film like my own content or whatever. It's up on my YouTube channel. And yeah, it kind of like started from there. I was just going to like all these booths and just seeing like all these different coffee people and like
Can you smell it? Like the smell must be, the
Oh yeah,
aroma
it's
must be
amazing.
unreal.
Yeah. And then note to anyone who does go to a coffee festival, apparently you're not supposed to actually, I mean, you can do whatever you want,
Mhm.
but you shouldn't like swallow everything that you try. Like it's totally fine if you like take a sip and throw the rest out or like spit it out or whatever, because
Right.
you're trying a lot of coffee. Like I was buzzing by the end and like I hadn't eaten that much, so I didn't feel too great. But the experience was great. And at that festival actually was where I met kind of like my mentor for influencing. Like I didn't even know what an influencer was. Her name's Tinger. She has an account, Dash of Ting. She's an amazing travel food blogger, and so she kind of like held my hand and was like, "Here's the world of like what you could do with your coffee, like on the internet, on Instagram." I was like, "Wow!" And then from there, just connecting with more people, figuring out more shops, and also I forgot to mention like in going to Starbucks a lot, I was like, you know what, like what happens if I don't go to Starbucks? What happens if I actually just try and find whatever local coffee shops are around? And I was like the gold member status on Starbucks where you get whatever perks, and then I think a year had passed and I didn't even realize that I lost that membership because I just hadn't gone to them that much anymore because I was too busy trying to find all these new amazing coffee shops, and there was just like no looking back. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that, Danielle. I appreciate that. Wow, the history of Blendandchat. Now I get to know.
Sorry, I'm also, unless if like it's a script, I'm really bad at storytelling. Like I just jump all over the place because as soon as I have a thought, I'm like, oh, but then there's this. Oh, but then there's this.
Hey, it's all good. Organic. That's how we roll on the PositiveLeo show. On to the next question, if I may. And the next question kind of ties a little bit in terms of the word passion, right? And it's the word acting. And I know you're on some cool shows, 911, Good Trouble, and many others as well. And for me, myself, I always wanted to be an actor. But on that passion of acting, how and what drives you to invest in a career in acting? I'm just curious if you could share.
That's a very good question because it's like, why would anyone subject themselves to the word no forever?
Oh, wow.
It's I don't really have a plan B. I grew up literally from like what I think when I was 4 is when I started doing theater because my dad had done some things in on like shows and like commercials and stuff, and he did some theater shows. So he's the one who got me into acting and just like that whole world of entertainment. And so I've always just kind of been involved, but it's almost like a weird rush when you get like your first audition or whatever, or second audition, or like even just getting headshots is exciting because it's like, you know, you're taking all these different photos and whatever. And it's obviously it's not about those things, but there's just so many, I don't know, it's a really weird, torturous way of like doing something that you love. Like if you don't love it, don't do it because it's everyone has their own path, their own journey.
Right.
I mean, if you do have, oh, and another thing too that's like really suggested with like if people are pursuing acting, like a lot of casting directors and stuff say to make sure you have like hobbies. Like don't make your entire life about this one thing, which is really, it's not just acting. It's actually good to do that with any area of your life. If you have like a job, like make sure you have like hobbies and stuff, just to give your brain insanity a break, to do something else that you enjoy rather than something that you're forced to do, which is how Blendandchat also came into play. Yeah, I just can't see myself doing like anything else. Like I've been acting or pursuing acting for I would say seriously, like actually trying for maybe the past like 5 or 6 years. Like before, like I did like a little bit. I booked some commercials and stuff, but I was kind of kidding myself. Like my husband was like, yeah, but are you really trying? Because your actions don't necessarily reflect like what you are, what you want. And then I was like, oh man, he's right. So you just have to really, really be serious about it because there's so many other people that are. And there's some people too that are like, I want to be an actor. And then for whatever reason, it is easy for them. They get that first role or whatever. but the longevity does come with the work for sure, and not necessarily taking things for granted. I forgot what your question even was, but I hope I was answering.
I'll actually follow up with that.
Yeah.
So when you answer the question with like, so there's a lot of like no's when you try to audition for roles and get things going, but you develop a resilience to that, almost like, because I play guitar, and after a while my fingers develop a bit of callus to like do the notes better.
Yeah.
What motivates you to continue to keep going and driving the hobbies and having side, but what keeps you on the road, other than you talked about your family history, your father, but what drives you, Danielle? What puts you forward, what every day?
Yeah, I think it is just like, that passion for it, because if I didn't have a passion for it, then I think I would have quit a long time ago, because of the, like I said, like the no's and stuff. And there's the what could be. Like you see, I love watching interviews and hearing stories of like actors and actresses who I love, and just like their paths and journeys and like the difficulty, and like, oh, like I almost quit and I had nothing, and but like they just loved it. And when you do book something, like it's addicting. You're like, all right, when's my next job? Like I gotta get my next job. So it's like, yeah, it's also like an addiction for sure. Like I've booked a lot of things this year, like the most things I've ever booked in my entire acting career, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome.
Thank you. But it's like, it's so hard, and it's funny because you'll book a job, and then say you have like one line or whatever, and then you'll get people that are like, oh, like, is that it? And it's like, but what, like, that is that it? I'm like, no, I've been on 100 auditions. Like that is that it? Like is really, really hard to get. And a lot of people don't know that. Like just this, since I got a new manager in last October. And since then, which isn't common, but I've had about over 100 auditions. And that's not common. Like that's really, really good. And you're lucky if you're doing well if you book one thing out of 60 auditions. So it's like, it's
wow.
definitely, it's, you just gotta love it. And I do love it. And like I said, it's addicting once you get like one job, you're like, oh my God, I can do this. Like someone hired me. Really? You sure? Okay. Can I do it again? Can I do it again?
Hey.
And then, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And just jump into the next question real quick is this show is all about positivity, right? And so along your journey to share your passion about coffee, your passion about acting, how do you cultivate that positivity? We're going through a difficult time right now through the pandemic, and then mental illness is on an all-time high. Financial means are tough in a very expensive market. How do you cultivate that joyful state? And I'll tie it with the next question too, is to your message to the world in that regards.
Well, I'm gonna work backwards a little bit. I feel like for like yourself, like don't be afraid to be selfish, because it's kind of like that, the popular saying when you're on an airplane, like make sure you put the mask on like your kid or whatever before you put it on yourself. No, I'm sorry. You make sure you put it on yourself before you put it on your kid. Completely backwards. Because it's like, well, what good are you to the other person if you're dead? So like, what good are you to someone else if you're not treating yourself the best that you can? And when it comes to like positivity, like I think there's a really good balance. You are crushing it at positivity, and I'm sure it's a daily choice for sure, because life happens. But when it comes to like positivity, I think it's a really, really important thing to have, and it's nice to kind of like be able to pull from that toolbox. But also it's like knowing that it's okay when you're not feeling positive, when you're not in like a happy mood. Like you can't just like pull yourself up, because I do think it is important to feel the sad feelings, or like, what, I just don't feel like doing anything today. But giving yourself a break, even if it's like 5-10 minutes, like, what, I'm just gonna sit and lay on the ground and do nothing, and then sulk or whatever. And then like, what, okay, I really needed that. Okay, now I can give give it my all or whatever. Or a lot of people are really, really hard on themselves. And this is where I guess my positivity comes into play. Cause so like I don't want to say I consider myself a positive person. I try to be like as realistic as possible, but at the same time, like we all hopefully treat our friends a lot better than we treat ourselves, because it's like we're really, really hard on ourselves. So if you were to talk to yourself the way that you talk to your friends, you'd be a lot nicer to yourself too. So I kind of have to like reverse psychology myself to be, I guess, positive. Because if I see like a friend struggling and they're just like really in like a dark place, or maybe like things just aren't going that great for them, especially like, you know, being not especially being an actor, because everyone has their struggles and stuff, but like I do see a lot of my friends struggle with like their careers and choices and stuff like that. And I feel like I want to be positive for them. Like, hey, I know you don't see it right now, but you know, look how far you've come, and just things like that. So I think there's definitely like a nice balance, but being nice to yourself and taking care of yourself first is really important before you can help take care of someone else. And just like trying not to get in your own way, and don't be so prideful that like if someone tries to give you a correction, even if they're wrong, like, hey, you know what, thanks for bringing that up, like I'll try and work on that or whatever. Like not necessarily just like, oh, but you said, and here's where you're wrong. I'm like, why don't you like try the exercise of if someone else is wrong and you like, and they're telling you that you're wrong, like don't correct them and be okay with that. Like, I mean, unless if like it's like a life or death situation or something like that.
Right.
Intervene, but just like for the exercise for yourself. Because everyone, like people don't like to be wrong. They don't like to be told what to do. But if you could sit with yourself and be okay knowing that you know like what the right thing is, which could be subjective, just kind of you're okay with yourself enough, you're secure with yourself enough. Like, you know what? I'm fine being wrong. Like maybe I'm wrong. All right. Anyway, you want to go get a drink?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's a weird practice.
Oh no, it's not, because it tests our patience, right? And also our what's the word for it? It grows our comfort box too, because typically we want things to be a certain way, and when people say something out of our expectations, we fire back, right? But if we take a step back, not only do we get to see the entire plane of the situation and make a better decision on the next go round, but we'll give the other person a chance to see what's going on and maybe resolve it in a better light, in a more positive tone than negative.
Yeah.
Right? You hit it on the nut. I'm gonna note that. Thank you, Danielle. That's another crack on my list of positivity tools. Right before we jump into the last question, do you have any questions for me? Anything you asked the PositiveLeo? Hit me.
I do, because you've been reaching out to me and I've just been terrible at responding, and just this has been a long time in the making, you guys.
Oh yeah.
I want to know how like all of this came to be for you. Like I kind of want to know about like you and like your story. Because like it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be positive. Like I'm not gonna lie, like it's a lot of work. It's so much easier to be angry and to you know. Choosing joy is I would imagine like a daily, if not like minutely choice.
Yeah.
Things can happen so fast. So I just want to know about it.
Sure. Well, you know what? Let me jump right back to when you talk about being realistic and then talk about positive. So I'm going to give my angle of positivity and then jump to how I started the PositiveLeo. You know, I think being positive, many ways to look at it. A lot of people say being positive, you're, overly fake, or you're not being realistic, or da 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 da. But I think being positive truly is when you account for everything that's happening, you're realistic about the situation, and then you put yourself in a very uncomfortable, positive state, mindset, contrary to the situation, so that you have more opportunities to make better decisions for that particular situation. Because a lot of times, and I've said this in other shows and whatnot, is that we do the same solution for the same problem and expect a different result. It doesn't. If you do the same thing to the same thing, it's the same thing. It won't change
Mhm.
anything, right? Unless you, there you go, be positive and change that mindset. Jumping back to the Positive Leo, I started this show back in August of last year, and I wanted to cultivate a space to share what positivity means to me. And that can come in the form of playing music on my guitar, talking to cool people like yourself, taking news and sharing that. Because when we turn on the TV, all we see is negativity. I mean, it's the news. I get it, but 90% of it, it's something it doesn't lift our spirits during a time like this. And so I wanted to cultivate a space to share some of good stuff to whoever may see it. It could be one viewer, it could be 10, it could be hundreds and thousands. It doesn't really matter to me. But if I can affect one person, that's it. That's it for me. I remember one time I did a video on how I shaved my head, Danielle, and a couple people reach out to me and they said, Vin, I needed that. I just needed that. That's all I needed. And I was like, yo, I help a fellow brother, fellow sister out. I'm good. And so that's where it started. And I see this channel continue growing in terms of like me expressing myself, being more creative in my way to share positivity and what joyful is to me. We need more of that right now. We need to love more, think less. That's all it is. I think at the end of the day, and we have 90 years if we're lucky to live. So how can we maximize life to the fullest, every minute, every second? And positivity really is just a tool, I think. It's just a tool to use. We have lots of tools to use, right? The fight or flight instinct, negativity, stress. We can use that in a situation where you're fighting a lion compared to a rabbit this way, a lion this way. Better go with the rabbit, not the lion, But nowadays, where anything can trigger the cortisol release and stress, we got to find some tools that can work and bring us back into equilibrium. So long story, long answer for the question.
No, you reminded me. I think there may have been a thing I didn't answer about like how to handle like COVID and stuff right now, and a tool like something that I found myself doing a lot because last year was a lot, like all around, and I was being very. I was trying to fight for like all the causes and stuff, and just like educate myself on things and see like you're hearing about all these like really sad stories and stuff like that. And so I finally realized mainly like this year I was like, you know what, I'm going to intentionally kind of put blinders on a little bit and just kind of like focus on what's in front of me. And that it's tricky because it's like you don't want to be an ostrich and literally don't know about like anything that's going on and just be like in your own world. However, because like you have to deal with you. It's like, well, right now what I need is to just kind of like deal with what's in front of me. And I'm not turning on the news. Like I'm not scrolling through social media. Or if I am going through social media, as soon as I start to feel an emotional shift, I'm like, oh, time to get off. Like that lets me know I'm like, okay, like I like don't want to disturb not my peace, but I just need, to take care of like the mental health area where it's like, I can't be in tune with everything all the time right now because it's just affecting me so much. And most news tend to highlight like negative things that are happening. So I was like, okay, well, let me just go somewhere that I don't normally go. Like what's National Geographic talking about with the animals or something like that? Just like something really random and has absolutely nothing to do with like what was going on. So like that's one of my tools is kind of like it's deflecting a little bit and distracting from what's going on. But like if you are fighting for everything all the time and it's really affecting you and you're just kind of being like, dug into the ground, then like who's gonna help you? Like who's gonna help you like, take care of yourself? So yeah, I just tried to make sure that like if I needed a break, I took the break. And you don't have to explain yourself to anyone.
I love that.
That's generous of you, but like just again, like take care of yourself first, so then you can help take care of others.
That's right.
And then when your batteries are fully recharged, maybe somebody else needs, some of that juice because they've got like spiraled out of control. But because you're like, oh, okay, I feel a little refreshed now, and like the world's not imploding. Let me help you.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And I want to jump to the next last and final question, of course. It's an easy one. How can people reach you, Danielle? Was it through Instagram? Is it through blendandchat.com? What's your preference?
Definitely Instagram. Blendandchat on Instagram. I haven't updated my website in a really long time. It's nice to like look at and go back to, but I just haven't really put the time or energy into like adding more content to that. So I'm definitely a lot more active on my Instagram. Then also, if anyone cares to watch random coffee videos, I'm also Blendandchat on YouTube as well. Yeah, so
Cool.
like that. Or my email is blendandchat@gmail.com.
Awesome. We'll put all of that right into the description for folks to follow and see what you're up to. So last but not least, I want to take this time, Danielle, really to thank you for your time. I know you're incredibly busy with work and life, so thank you for sharing your time with us and your thoughts on positivity.
You're doing this after work.
Yeah, I know. We're making it happen for the people, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I want the audience and those watching, right, this conversation to take a step back, right? Take a step back, take a look at the conversation, see what you can take from it, and reflect on the word positivity, as Danielle said, as a tool to cultivate and navigate through life. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Danielle, and have a blessed day. Much love.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, of course.